everybody and welcome to my channel. So today we are finally doing my February manga reading log. This time we have a good assortment of stuff. So let's just get into it. As you may know, the format of these videos, we will start with the drop series, move into ongoing series, and finally finish off with the completed series. And there will be timestamps left down below for those of you who are not interested in hearing me talk about every single series today. So let's get right into it with the one and only drop series for this month. We have Goodnight, Punpun. I know this one's very highly regarded in the community, but unfortunately it just wasn't for me. I won't spend too much time talking about this just because I did speak about it in two videos that I've released pretty recently. One being like my first volume impressions video, and then also I kind of touched on it in my manga collection video, but yeah, overall this wasn't really for me. I read like the first half of this, which is like the first volume, and was disinterested, but then I ended up finishing this out just because I, owned it, so I might as well finish reading the entire thing. And by the end of this book, so like the first two volumes, I was like, it's okay. I don't know if I'm gonna spend money on it, but like I'm remotely interested in seeing what happens later on. So I read up to, I want to say I finished up to volume 4 online, but I just felt like I was forcing myself to read it just because of like the reputation it has, rather than reading it because I personally enjoyed it and wanted to know what was going to happen next. So I just kind of dropped it because like at the end of the day, I don't read things just because they're popular or just because like everyone else likes them. I read them because I like them. So if I don't like it, then I don't want to waste my time. So that's my story about Goodnight, Punpun. I will be selling this soon, but I wanted to include it like physically in the video so that I had something to hold. I like holding things while I do these. Anyways, yeah. So that's the one and only drop series for this month. So the first in progress series we have today is Yakuza Fiance. I read the first two of them. It was quite sad because I read this prior to filming my first volume impressions video, so I wasn't able to talk about it there, but I'm here to talk about it, both of these in this video. I really like it so far. So basically we follow our main female protagonist, she's the granddaughter of a yakuza boss in Osaka, but the like yakuza people, they're like trying to kind of unify Japan. So in order to like make peace operations, they send her to live in Tokyo with the grandson of the Tokyo gang, which is this guy with the back tattoo. So they're kind of living together, kind of testing the waters of like maybe forming courtship. She kind of realizes that this guy's a little insane, so it's kind of like her uncovering the mystery surrounding him, as well as like uncovering the mysteries of like the yakuza ties in general, because even though she is the granddaughter of a yakuza boss, I feel like she was not deep into it. Like she just kind of birthed into it. She doesn't really care about her relations or anything. Like she's just a normal girl who happens to be the granddaughter of a yakuza boss, while this guy, like, he really likes being into the yakuza organization. So yeah, that's like the premise of the story. I really like their dynamic so far because like I said, she's pretty normal in terms of like not caring that much about it, but at the same time, like, she has some really deep edge to her. So she's not just like a pushover, and this guy's crazy. So yeah, I've only read the first two so far. They've only gotten into these characters. There haven't been too many like different characters yet, but I'm highly anticipating the next volume. I don't know when it releases, but it's pre-ordered, so it'll just show up at my doorstep whenever it comes out. But I'm trying not to binge series online as much anymore. I'm trying to like stick with physical releases and just read them as they release. It's like a personal thing with like my ability to be patient. So yeah, I really recommend it. It's not too deep on the romance. It's more like drama based, I feel. So if that's your vibe, then I think you would like this. And the next in progress series, I feel like these two kind of complement each other in a way, but it is actually Something's Wrong with Us. So I read the first 4 volumes of this. I bought the first 4 volumes in a bundle on Right Stuff when it was on sale during the winter sale. I didn't want to buy like the whole thing just in case I didn't like it. I thought 4 was a good amount to try out since that was like the bundle. And I am pretty familiar. Natsume Ando is the artist of Kitchen Princess, so like at the very least, I knew that the art was going to be good because I really enjoyed the art in Kitchen Princess. And it's really interesting how, like, Kitchen Princess is obviously very culinary based and uses cooking as, like, a back front to everything that happens in the series. But this also uses kind of cooking. In this case, it's, like, baking more so than, like, cooking because they're making, like, traditional Japanese snacks or not pastries, rather treats. Treats is the word I want to use. So that's really interesting how they like kind of tie together. But basically, Something's Wrong with Us is a drama series focusing on our main girl who, when she was a child, she was the daughter to a live-in chef at a very famous like confectionery bakery business. But her and the son of that house like were really, really tight, and they would make pastries together, whatever. But fast forward, turns out her mom gets convicted of killing his dad. And so obviously things fall apart from there. But several years later, she comes back around and realizes, like maybe my mom wasn't the one who actually killed that guy. And she basically infiltrates the family to kind of discover more secrets about her mother's conviction. She like marries this guy. Like, mind you, all this happens like in this first, like, I wouldn't even say it happens in this first volume. I'd say it happens within the first like 3 chapters of this first volume. Like, this was my issue with it at first, is that it's very like fast paced. Like, the first things that are happen very quickly. So I was like, wow, the pacing in here is like really intense. So I'm not sure how I feel about it, but I feel like by the second and third volumes, like the pacing kind of balances out. Like, it starts to feel more steady. Like, things are still developing, but it's like steady and it's like easier to keep up with. By the 4th volume, I was really into it. So I would honestly say that I'm really like obsessed with it, and I would love to get the rest of them. But I don't really buy things out of sales. So I'm just going to wait for Right Stuff to put it on sale. So Right Stuff, like if you're watching this, I would really love it if you put Something's Wrong with Us on the next week's sale. Yeah, I would buy it. So I feel like I support your business quite often. So if you put Something's Wrong with Us on sale, like I'm going to buy it all. So just a thought. But yeah, I really recommend this. Like I said, it's kind of similar to Yakuza Fiance in the sense that the romance is like so toxic and awful, but like sometimes you just gotta get into a good, awful, toxic romantic series. Their dynamic makes me physically ill. Like, it is crazy. The like romantic tension between them is insane because like, this is kind of spoilers, so like if you've read up to this point, you can continue watching, but the way that they were getting intimate, and then she was talking about Sakura, which is like her like what she was called when she was a child in the house, and she was like, oh, what would you do if you met Sakura right now? And he was like, oh, I'd want her out of my sight. I'd remove her. I don't remember the exact wording he used, but he was like, yeah, I don't want to see her. Like, I would have her like abolished immediately. And I was like, she's in front of you right now. Yes. Okay. Anyways, Something's Wrong with Us. It's great. I recommend. Very like heavy on the drama. So the next series that I have read that's in progress this month is actually one that I'm like really close to finishing. So I'm really sad that I wasn't able to finish in this month. There's another series in this video that like I was really close to finishing, but I didn't actually get to finish. But that is Tokyo Ghoul. This is another one I talked about in my first volume impressions video. A lot of, like almost half of the series in this video are actually from, like I read them for the first volume impressions video, and then like I continued reading past that. But Tokyo Ghoul, I read up to I have a couple chapters left in volume 10, but I basically read up to volume 10. So I'm almost done. There's 14 in the first series, and then there's Tokyo Ghoul Re. I'm not quite sure how many there are in that, but I think it's another, like, I want to say something between 12 and 15. So, yeah, I've been really enjoying it so far. It's pretty popular, so I feel like I don't need to explain the premise, but basically, due to some unfortunate circumstances, an average human guy, Kaneki, he ends up getting turned into like a ghoul-human hybrid. So he's kind of like navigating the world of both the ghouls and humans simultaneously, since he is both of them. and also kind of uncovering the mystery surrounding like his transformation, which has been like, that's kind of like what happens in the second half of the series, which has been really interesting so far. So a little backstory behind Tokyo Ghoul is that like I did read it way back in the day. That's why I have all of them, is that I read it back in like 2017, I want to say. I bought like a bunch of them and was reading it, but by like volume 9 I kind of dropped it, which like it's so funny because I dropped it because I didn't like how they were shifting focus away from Kaneki, but I was reading it and like there was only not a focus on Kaneki for 5 chapters max. They were establishing like the CCG people, which I really hate the CCG people. So like whenever they're on the screen, I'm like, I don't, it's hard for me. Okay, and also when I first read it, I didn't really care about any character besides Kaneki, and I can say this time that I care a lot about a lot of characters, like, but specifically the ghouls. Like I care a lot about, you know, like Toka, Hinami, Nishiki. I'm starting to come around to Sugiyama. Like, I didn't like him at first, but I'm starting to come around to him. Side note, I don't want to get too distracted, but this is just something I thought about recently. But whenever I'm reading, like, Sugiyama's talking, do you guys know the Barbie, like, the most popular girls in school on YouTube? I feel like whenever I read Sugiyama, I read it in Saison Marguerite's voice of, like, just the way that she talks in the most popular girls in school. That's how I imagine Tsukiyama's voice to sound. So I hope that that little tidbit of information helps somebody out there. Anyways, yes. So I like all the ghouls, but I hate all the CCG members. That was what I was getting at. So yeah. Whenever I don't care about their backstories. I think they're awful people. So it's kind of hard for me to care about them. But luckily, like, it at the end of the day, it's called Tokyo Ghoul, not Tokyo CCG. So it works out. It's really sad that I dropped it back then because of Kaneki not being in the forefront for 5 chapters, because it's like, it's been really good since then. I really, really love it, and I wasn't expecting to like it as much as I do, if that makes sense. Like, obviously I was expecting to like it, but this is like this is my new obsession right now, is Tokyo Ghoul. So I quite literally took it off of my shelf because I was like, I'm gonna sell this after I finish reading it, but now I don't know if I will, because I like it. So that's pending right now, but I guess if you've never read it, I think you should give it a try. I think that, like, if you like things like Chainsaw Man and Jujutsu Kaisen now, I think you would also like Tokyo Ghoul. Like, if you just got into anime, like, with the pandemic or something, like, I think you should go back and read Tokyo Ghoul. Not that Tokyo Ghoul's really old. It's, like, not at all. It's relatively new. Like, it came out, what, in, like, 2010? Something like that. Like, it came out in 2010, so it's not old, but like, if you just got into anime within the past few years and this one was like not on your radar or anything, like, I think that it is still very good. And if you like things like Chainsaw Man or Jujutsu Kaisen, like, I recommend this. But yes, that's all I have to say. Kaneki is my favorite character as well. He's everything to me. So the next series in the in progress section actually kind of ties in with what I was saying in the Tokyo Ghoul section, that like I had 2 series that I was reading that I really wanted to finish this month, but I unfortunately wasn't able to. So the second series that I was reading, like, in tandem with Tokyo Ghoul, is Princess Jellyfish. I've kind of talked about how I like to, like, pair different tones of series together. So like Tokyo Ghoul is like kind of dark and gritty. This is like happy and fluffy. So I really like this one a lot as well. So Princess Jellyfish follows a like boarding house or like apartment kind of situation where like a bunch of girls live together. They're all NEETs, which like not employed, not in education, employment, or in training. So like they're kind of losers. And they all live together in this house, and one of their rules is that, you know, they're all nerds about a specific thing, and they also really hate men, and they hate stylish people, and they just hate like active members of society basically. But all of this kind of gets turned on its head when Tsukimi, one of the girls in the house, ends up becoming very friendly with Kuranosuke, which is this guy. He is just like a very fashionable, he cross-dresses quite often, he's a very fashionable guy. And, you know, they go on a lot of cahoots together. They do a lot of crazy things together. But it's very, like, inspirational because, like, it's so interesting to see these two people who live in completely different worlds come together and, like, inspire each other and, like, influence each other's lives in ways that they didn't think were possible. I think that what happens is that a lot of the characters in the series think that they are like not attractive or not pretty because they don't put in any effort towards their appearance, because that's not like what they're interested in. And there's also like this kind of feeling of like, because of the way that stylish people are, they feel like alienated from that concept, so they like don't want to be pretty at all. But I think that like Kuronosuke is able to like show all of them that like they can still be pretty and like clothes and like wearing things in their own way. They don't have to be a stylish in the way that like that's how they call stylish people. Like they don't have to be that deep into it. They can like it in their own way, and they can still be pretty in their own way. And I think that Skimi like was always pretty in her own way, but she just didn't recognize it. And I think that Kuronosuke does a really good job of like showing her that she is like just as much of a beautiful woman as all other women are, you know? I say all this to say that I really like their bond, like Kuronosuke and Tsukimi, but I also like them as individuals. Like I think that I can relate to both of them in some ways. So Tsukimi, there's like a specific scene in, at least so far I've gotten, my favorite scene with Tsukimi has been, you know, they were pushing really deep into the fashion design thing with making the jellyfish dresses, but they were pushing a lot of the members of the house to make these dresses as well, even though, like, at the end of the day, it was mostly Kuronosuke and Tsukimi's dream to make the dresses. So she was kind of forcing her interests onto them, and, like, once she realized what she was doing, she was really, like, genuinely very upset at the way that, like, her interests got in the way of her friends and like their happiness, because then she kind of flashed back to back in the day when she was a child going to the museum for jellyfish, and she realized that like she was giving all these facts about jellyfish that none of her friends honestly cared about. And she was like, wow, I can like relate to the sentiment of like, wow, like I feel like I'm info dumping and nobody cares about like what I care about, and that I'm forcing my interests on other people when they don't feel the same way, if that makes sense. So I can relate to her in that way, but then she, like, it ends up being resolved in kind of the whole thing with, like, being able to recognize that you can like things in your own way without having to conform to specific, like, at the end of that little arc of, like, oh, I'm forcing my interests in these jellyfish dresses onto them, there's also the idea of we can make them also like clothes. They don't have to be these like flamboyant jellyfish dresses, but they can also enjoy the clothes that we can make on our fashion line. Okay, I'm kind of rambling, but yes. And then on the Kuronosuke side, I really, really like this series a lot, okay? Not to be exactly like how Tsukimi was talking about, but I really like the series. So my final point on it is for Kuronosuke, I really like how his attitude at the beginning, a lot of the people in the house were not a fan of him. Like, they genuinely did not want him around, but over time, even though his like personality has not changed, it's more of like how everyone else perceived him. They realize that he's very charismatic and very like optimistic, and it's kind of like infectious in a way. So I like Kuronosuke's attitude. Yeah, I like how he doesn't take shit from nobody. So yeah, Princess Jellyfish, I really, really, really love it, and I can't wait to see how it ends. Actually, I'm a little nervous because right now we're like in the middle of a love triangle, and it's not going the way that I was expecting it to go. So hopefully it goes back, like hopefully my team wins at the end, but right now the other team's winning, and it's kind of hurting. And that's why I've been like reading more Tokyo Ghoul than this, because I'm like a little nervous to see what happens with my love triangle. But overall, like, so far so good, to a point where I honestly think that it can be like maybe in my like top 10, top 15 of manga series of all time, because I feel like personally I can relate to a lot of the characters, and like I find a lot of the themes in the series to be very like inspirational. So that is my thoughts on Princess Jellyfish. I recommend. So the final series for our video today, which is the only completed series this month, is actually my favorite. I mean, not my favorite. A personal previous favorite of shoujo magical girl series. We have Shugo. I did finish reading the series up to volume 12. I only have up to volume 9, which we will get into later, but I have speaked pretty negatively about this series in the past, especially one instance I remember being negative is my very first manga collection video. I mentioned something along the lines of like, it's my least favorite magical girl series on my magical girl shelf, and that I would not be sad if I got rid of it. Two things with that. First off, I didn't realize how out of print the series was. So, no, it's not leaving my shelf for that reason. But also, because after I read it, I realized that it holds up a lot in some ways. Obviously, I have some reservations about it that we will talk about later on during this review. But overall, I think that there's a lot of really good themes in here, especially for young people. So basically, we follow our main girl. Her name is Amu. She's an elementary school student who a lot of people perceive as very cool and mysterious and intimidating. You know, she dresses very coolly. She has like a very punk type of style, so it makes her seem more intimidating than she really is. And she's very cold towards people, but the truth is that she never really felt like that was her true self. She never wanted to be that way, but that's kind of just how the world has started to perceive her, so she just kind of carries through with it because of that. And through this kind of like unsure feelings that she has towards herself, she has three guardian characters that are born from it, and your guardian character is basically like the personification of your true self. So a lot of kids have guardian characters, and specifically like her group of friends, they use their guardian characters to fight evil. And of course there's an evil organization that's using children's dreams to fund whatever they want to do. So obviously the kids have to fight the evil organization in order to save the children's dreams or whatever. So that's the plot of the story. Yeah, I think like the magic system and the concept of like your true self and stuff is very well done. So I really like it for those reasons. And there's also like a couple of side characters that I think get really good character arcs, such as my top two favorite side character arcs have been Rima, with her like parents having like marital issues stemming from something that happened to her. And then there's Nagihiko as well. Probably my second favorite character in the whole series. I just liked his like gender thing that he had going on. Yeah, enjoyed that. So I feel like there's a character that a lot of people could relate to somewhere along the lines in the series, but for me personally, my favorite character has always been Amu, and I always related to her because I feel like I also put on a certain facade that people perceive me as, but that's not my true self. At least I had this problem more when I was a kid. I don't really have this problem as much now, but yeah. I say all this to say that I think that the fact that there's so many things that are so good about the series, it makes the bad things just feel that much more distasteful. So there's two main bad things when it comes to the series that a lot of people may be familiar with, but I'm still going to explain and, complain about. So the first one is the incest, which it's not that bad. I hate that I have to say that, but basically like one of the male leads, his sister really likes him, but like this tones down a lot later on in the series. It's mostly big for like a little part of one of the arcs, but she kind of gets over it and stops being weirdo about it. But the bigger issue surrounding this series is actually the age gap relationship between our main girl Amu. Like I said, she is an elementary school student, and Ikuto, which is her male love interest, and he's literally a high schooler. He's not only is he a high schooler, he is a senior in high school. So that means he is 17, almost 18. He's almost legal. He's almost an adult. And she is in elementary school. She's like, I don't know, 11, 12, and he's 17. 5 years, if you put 5 years in any other context, it's not that big of a deal, but like when you're talking about a 12-year-old and a 17-year-old, that's awful. I get on the internet and I see people like defending this age gap, and I hate it. So please don't do that, guys. Just because your mom's 30 and your dad's 35 does not mean that Amu and Ikuto's okay. And this is my thing, is that like with the manga, they're basically canon in the manga, but in the anime it was more like open-ended with like who she actually is going to end up with. But in this, like, it's very clear that Ikuto is like the main male that she's going to end up with. They don't end up together, but like if there was an epilogue that took place 5 years later, they were going to be together, if that makes sense. So yeah, And there's like a scene where basically Ikuto like runs away from home and he ends up sleeping in her room for like some period of time, which is weird in itself. But then her mom finds out, and her mom's not even like, doesn't care that much. The mom's just like, oh, you should trust me more and tell me things. You gotta get out of here. But Amu, like, you should trust me more. Not mad. Like, your prepubescent child was sneaking a grown man into her room. That's all you have to say for yourself? You're not mad? I thought that her reaction was a little, not as dramatic as I would have liked it to be. And my issue with it is that, like, I don't have issues with, like, problematic media. Like, I don't dabble into age gaps very often. It's not like I reach for them, but, like, if the story's compelling enough, I can get into it. But, like, with this, it's like, this is made, you can tell that this is made for children. Obviously, like, shoujo manga is made for, like, girls. Girls meaning, like, not women, but girls. But I feel like, compared to a lot of other shoujo manga, like, I don't know, Kitchen Princess, like, Ouran High School Host Club, things like that, I can tell that they're made more for, like, teenage girls, or, like, yeah, basically, like, teenage girls, like, between, like, 16 to 20, I think, versus this being, like, made for children, you know? Even, like, a lot of magical girl series are made for children, so for you to put these, like, types of problematic themes in a series, especially when children aren't able to, like, differentiate between, like, a media being entertaining for the sake of media versus, like, being able to apply certain things into your real life, I think that it's really damaging to have these types of age gaps in those types of media. But for me personally, like, I don't think that me being into this as a child changed my perception on age gaps. Like, I always thought it was weird that she liked him, and I was always team Tadase, but at the same time, as I got older, like, I still thought the age gaps were weird. Like, if somebody in my high school that was dating, like, a 20-year-old, I thought that that was really weird, and I did not condone things like that. So, like, it didn't affect me, but I think it's unfair for me to try to post a generalization that it wouldn't affect other people. That's why I'm really conflicted about, like, my overall opinion on the series, like, whether I think that I can full-heartedly recommend it to somebody. But overall, like, I think it was a big part of my childhood, so I still really like it for that reason. And I think that there's a lot of themes in it that are still very strong. So overall, do I recommend it? Probably not, but I still really liked it. Yeah, I'm conflicted, but overall, like, I did enjoy my time of rereading the series, and I will keep it on my shelf. I only collected up to volume 9 because volumes 10, 11, and 12 are not good. Because in one of them, they, like, basically confirm Amu and Ikuto's canon, and then the ending is, like, really bad. Because there's, like, the final arc, which is fine, but then they have, like, this weird ending thing where they're, like, traveling through time and stuff, and it's like, what? Like, what? What's happening? Why? And then there's, like, an epilogue with a couple chapters with, like, side characters, and those were really good. But the ending, like, volume 11 was weird. So, yeah, I'm good off of volumes 1 through 9, and that's all I have to say. I'm gonna quit rambling, because we'll be here all day if I continue to ramble. That is the end of the manga reading log for the month of February. I'm sorry that it's a little bit late, but I still hope you enjoyed nonetheless. Next month, I will definitely be finishing Princess Jellyfish and Tokyo Ghoul base, and we'll see what the next month has in store for me. I don't have any, like, set plans on what I'm gonna read next, so it'll be a mystery for everyone involved. But if you enjoyed this video, leave a like and subscribe for more of me, especially if you're interested in anything I've talked about, because those are the type of series that I really typically enjoy. That is all I have to say. Leave a comment of what you've been reading this month as well. I'm always interested to get conversations rolling in the comments. So yes, thank you for watching. Bye bye.